here we go. This is going to be the 6th video in the tutorial series for the tower defense thing. One thing I want to do before I really do any of the stuff I'm going to do today, I'm going to be creating a wave system, by the way, is I want to fix something that I did earlier on that I forgot to do, but for whatever reason it still worked. So if we go into the animations, blend space, the ABB player, locomotion, and is it aiming? I think aiming was the problem, right? Some of you are sliding across the ground even though you're aiming, and that's my fault. That's because I didn't add a blend or a bone into the blend per bone thing. So to fix that, just hit the plus here. If you don't see that, it's under layer setup. So once you click on layer blend per bone, click on this down arrow here and hit a plus here, the next down arrow, and for this bone name, you can go into the skeleton right here, and we'll pick a good skeleton. Bone, spine 03. We'll just say spine 03, like downward would probably work, right? And upward. That's a good split. So I'm just going to copy this name here, Control C, and I'm going to close this. And then here, I'm just going to paste the bone name, and here under mesh space rotation and the mesh space scale blend thing, just hit them and click them both as true. All right, so back to the actual thing we're going to cover today. So let's start by creating the UI for the wave thing to appear on the screen. That was I'm having trouble talking today. All right, so just go in, and we're gonna need another widget blueprint. So I don't exactly know where it is in there. Just if you type in there, you can get widget blueprint, user widget, select, and I'm just gonna call it WB underscore I don't know, start wave or something. Start wave. All right, so kind of the same setup. Create a canvas panel, and then all we really need are text. So I want 2 texts, but I'm gonna create just one right now. So I'm gonna create one, I don't know, size be like 50 or something. All right, and I kind of want it not right in the middle. So let me anchor it to the top. I'll zero it out a bit. And of course, for the alignment, 0.5, because it never aligns right in the middle. And then I'm going to drop the y-axis position down, my bad, a little bit, like right there. And what are we going to say? Press enter to start wave. Yeah, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Oh, now I'm gonna have to change the position again. Here, let me zero this out again, so you can just lower it down. Wrong thing again. There we go. All right, so let me just Control C, Control V, or you could just duplicate by pressing Control D, which I should have done. And this is just going to be 0, 0, Doesn't really matter what you put in here because I'm going to bind it later. You probably want it to be around the same like number though of things. You could put like WW here if you wanted to. But that's just a placeholder for now. I'm going to bind it a little bit later because I have nothing to bind it to because I don't really have waves yet. So the next thing we're going to have to do is go into our third person character and bind it to the viewport. So go my third person character, go up here, and right next to our other widget blueprint that we added with our other UI, the aiming thing, crosshair. I feel like I forget that name every video. All right, create widget. It's going to be the widget we just created. For me, it's start wave. Right click here, promote to variable, because we're going to use this later. Click F2 to rename it. I'm just going to name it itself. WB start wave or something. I don't know. And then we need to add it to viewport. Add to viewport. Awesome. And the target's itself, or the target is the widget blueprint itself. So that's good. So now we want to actually create the interface for the thing we're going to spawn. So go third person input actions and input and then input action. And we're going to call this IA underscore spawn wave. Good enough, whatever. And then we need to add that back into the IMC defaults here. Just hit a plus on the mappings and you'll get a new mapping, and it's going to be IA spawn wave. And I said enter, right? Yeah, I think I said enter. So going back into the third person character, we're going to put this input action into the actual graph. So same way we did with the other ones. IA underscore spawn wave. All right. And then we want to I think we should create a Boolean. So let's do wave start Boolean start question mark. So if I drag this on here, get wave start, or let me set the wave start once you trigger it. So set wave start, cool. And then if it started, it's going to need a branch. I'm going to do something with this branch later, but it's going to need a branch to determine whether you can start the wave. And I'm going to create the condition in a second, but let me first delay it by 0.2. Sometimes I have issues if I don't delay it by a little bit. 0.2 is barely anything. So I don't have a spawn, so there's nothing that's going to be spawned when you spawn wave. So that's going to be the next custom event, is we're going to need to actually spawn a wave. So this is going to be, I'm just going to call it spawn. And then on the back of this, we're just going to spawn completed. Okay. And then it's going to go through spawn. So we're now going to have a widget blueprint that, like, the start wave thing is going to show every single time that I hit the play button, right? But we don't want it to be on the screen all the time. So when we spawn, we can do something once we drag the variable back on the screen. So get WB start wave. And then we're going to, we can set the visibility. And what we're doing here is we're going to hide it. We're going to hit it. We're going to make it hidden so you can't see it. Although it is still there, it is hidden. So we're going to need wave for whatever wave it is, because that's going to determine how many you're going to be spawning. Integer, it's just going to be a simple integer for the wave. And then we're going to need, say, enemy spawned. So this is going to be how many enemies were spawned, and then we're going to need enemies alive. Because one of these, well, I'm just going to show you. This one, you're going to branch it off into a sequence. So it's going to split into two different directions. It's going to split between, well, let me get the wave first. Get wave. I need to compile this because I need this wave to start at 1. All right, so 1, we grab enemy spawned, set enemy spawned. The enemy spawned is going to be the current wave. You could also multiply that by whatever you want. This is a simple setup right now. We might change this later, but enemy spawned, and so that'd be 1. And if it's greater than 0, we're going to create a branch here. And if this is true, then we're going to go through the rest of the spawning function. So delay, so we don't have them right on top of each other. We have them coming out one at a time. I'm just going to make this like 30 seconds, I guess. Then we want, after delay, we're just going to spawn the actor. Actor from class. Yeah. Enemy. I need BP underscore enemy. Spawn transform, we actually want a location for this. So if we promote this to a variable, we can take the location of the things. This is why I left this here, is I can just copy this location. So copy location. Oops. Go into the spawn transform and just right click and paste the location. And then for the rotation, it's basically 180. So let's just put in 180 here. And don't need to worry about any of that other stuff right now. So we now, once it goes through, once it spawns, we want to get the enemies spawned, and then we want to decrement it. And decrement just decreases the number by 1. So, and then we want it to loop until there's no more enemies left to spawn. And just fixing this up. If you double click, it'll create this little dot thing that you can move around. Helps it clean it up a little bit. So if there's two enemies, 2 is greater than 0, or this is wave 2, whatever, just spawn to the enemies greater than 0. The branch that is true, it is greater than 0, delays for 3 seconds, spawns an actor at this location, and then it decrements it by 1, so now it is 1. Going back here to the branch, 1 is greater than 0, and that's the condition for this branch. Goes through this again, but now when it decrements again, it becomes 0, and 0 is not greater than 0, so it's going to stop there. It's going to stop producing enemies. Now for the other bottom half part, we are now setting the enemies alive. So these are the remaining enemies after they've been destroyed. I'm setting this so that once I destroy, or if I don't destroy all the enemies, it won't let me press enter again to spawn another thing. It'll require me to destroy all the enemies first, and I'll show you how that works. So this goes in the same thing. If you're going to multiply this by a certain number, you're going to have to multiply this by the same amount. So if you want like times 3 for wave 1, if you wanted to spawn 3 enemies, then you also have to multiply this by 3 to make it work. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. I'm just gonna print the string so we could see this. And all this is giving us, it'll transition it for us. All this is giving us like a number so we can see the enemies left alive. Okay. That should be it for that, I think. So next, we want the waves to increase, right? So we're gonna call it a custom event. We're gonna call it current wave. Current wave. So it's gonna be called current wave, and we need the wave, get wave, and we want to increment it. Increment, which is the opposite of decrement, it will increase by 1 every time this event is called. But this event is never going to get called right now. So what we need to do is create a way for the event to be called. And we're going to do something a little bit more special here, in that I'm going to create a blueprint interface. So let me just look up blueprint interface. I don't know why I didn't put this in the folder. Interfaces. Put that in there. Move here. All right, going in, press F2. We're going to rename this to BPI, Blueprint Interface, I guess. And we'll call it, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Decrease enemy. Enemy. I'm just going to call decrease enemy again. Decrease enemy. This really helps. Well, this is all you have to do. You just name it and then just close out of it. You could add nodes and stuff to it, but we don't need it for this. This is really useful for when you're not trying to cast as much. Because I very well could have just casted to the other thing. It just takes a lot more processing power. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So let's go into class settings, and under the interfaces tab thing, we're gonna hit the add It's gonna be interfaces. What did I just call it? BPI something. All right, it's the only BPI. Good. So it should appear up here in the interfaces. Just right click and then implement event. And it's going to be the event we just created, which is the event decrease enemy. So what would decreasing enemy look like? So I think when you take the enemies alive, we're gonna subtract that, so we're gonna decrement it. We're gonna get really popular with this. And then we want to cast the new enemies alive. Set the new enemies alive is what I meant to say, not cast it. We're trying to avoid casting here. And then kind of want a print string here. How would I do this? Let's do branch. Let me do branch over here because we're gonna need a branch because we're gonna if true thing. Let me just print string here. Print string and then enemies alive after decrements. Well, something like that. Just gonna drag this down. And then we want a condition if it's equal to 0. If it's equal to 0, I don't know where I want to put this. Equal to 0, then if that is true, then we want to update our custom event up here, the current wave. So current wave. And then we want to set the visibility, right? Because, well, I need the WB wave. So get the WB wave and then set the visibility to now visible. Because that current wave is done. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. All right. Done with that. Is that all I wanted to do? Huh. No, I forgot to do this. Get wave. Get wave, make it equal to, if it is equal to 0, wave? No, enemies alive. My bad, I'm losing my mind. Enemies alive is equal to 0. Yeah, that's the condition we want. If the enemies alive are equal to 0, then do this. All right. Going back to the BP enemy. BP enemy. Go in here. And all we need to do in here is, what is it called? Decrease enemy message. Okay. So now we're messaging when death gets called, which is from this function over here. When something gets destroyed, it's called death. So, and then spawns the emitter and does all this stuff. But it's going to trigger the decrease enemy, which we need to get from a get player character. By the way, if you want to know what you need to plug into this for certain things, it's up in the top right hand corner is typically the thing you need to put in. Get player character, subtype character. Blah, 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 blah. And that is not it. Oh, wait. Let me go to the start wave real quick. Go here. Let's bind this. Create a binding for that. For this, the text we're going to get. We're going to do this quick and dirty, actually. Cast to third person character. And the same thing. Get player character. And then for this, you want to get the wave. Get wave. And that's going to be the number that we input into that thing. That's going to be the text we have. Reload. Enter. The heck? Oh, I didn't delete. Delete. Now play. Enter. It says 1. Hey, look at that. 2. My wording looks kind of funky. Maybe I could have moved that over a little bit more and done something else with it. There. It's gonna spawn 2. Spawn wave 3, enter. It says 3 in the corner. That's 1 down. That says now 2. 1 left. And now let me try spam pressing enter. So there should only be 4 enemies coming out of here. Nobody else is coming. Cool. And that is it. All right. See you later.